Hi, I'm Tina Taylor, and I'm here to talk to you about stress. There's a lot of things published nowadays telling us about all of the negatives surrounding stress. You'll hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I can't cope, I'm just so stressed." I even heard a young child turn to its mother in the store the other day and tell her, "Oh, I can't do that, Mum, I'm so stressed." What is stress and how do you catch it? Well, it's your body's natural response. When we receive information or we're, we're told things that we're expected to do that are out of our norm, that requires us to make an adjustment in our response, maybe add things to our daily tasks, the things that we would normally do. If it's unexpected, if it's something we haven't done before, we can feel a little uneasy about it. We can feel stressed. And these feelings can come out physically. People can feel sick if they feel stressed. People get headaches when they feel stressed. They can affect us mentally, emotionally, many different ways. Now, stress is also it's contextual and it depends on the person. One person's stress can be another person's motivation. And stress isn't always bad. We have something called eustress, which is considered to be positive stress. Eustress is the kind of stress you get when you're going on holiday, and you've got all those things to do before you get away. The kind of stress you feel getting married, moving, going to a new job. That too is stressful. And we can also feel stressed if we don't have enough to do. So I guess stress really is perceptual. It depends on each individual and how they respond. Now, as it's really down to how you think about something as to whether or not you consider it to be stressful, there are ways to change how you think, ways to change how you feel, to deal with stress. Now, stress is an instinctive response. So, your brain recognizes something dangerous. For example, if we think about our ancestors, if we go back thousands of years to our ancestors who would be out hunting or even gathering, they're out looking for food and they come across a predator. And the brain recognizes this creature as dangerous. And that sets off a chain reaction. Within the body, your body creates chemicals, neurochemicals, adrenaline being part of that, to put your body into a higher gear so that you're ready. You're ready to act. You're ready to do something. Now, your heart will pump faster. Your body also takes blood away from non-essential organs and puts blood into your arms and your legs and your heart and your lungs. You breathe faster because you need more oxygen. You need to oxygenate your muscles for that response. And now a decision is made. Are you going to fight the predator or are you going to run away? And this is the fight or flight response. Now, when you fight or run away, something else happens inside your body. Now, within your nervous system, we talk about the sympathetic nervous system, which is part of the fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system. So, our ancestor makes his decision to fight or run. And that action discharges the stress. It uses up all those neurochemicals, all that adrenaline, and the body relaxes and begins to go back to normal. And if we're unable to discharge, to get rid of these chemicals, if you can't get your biochemistry back to return to its normal state, then when they meet the next predator, they already begin in the stressed state. And then they begin to build more stress. Now, the sympathetic nervous system, its role is to put your body on alert. Its role is to ensure that you have the strength and the energy to get out of that dangerous situation. And for good physical and mental health, you should only be spending a maximum of 5% of your life in that state. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is designed to keep your mind and body balanced, relaxed, normal. And you should be spending 95%, at least 95% of your life in that state. Now, of course, stress has evolved. And nowadays, we rarely come across predators when we're out wandering around the supermarket looking for food. And we rarely come across predators in our life, period. So our brain has managed to evolve to find other things to stress over. So whereas we stressed over being able to survive the predator, now we stress over being able to deliver that report at work, being able to complete the work that we have to do. We stress if we get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system and we don't discharge those chemicals. If you're on call 24/7 looking after relatives, children, family members, if you can't find a job, there are so many things nowadays that people stress over. And stress has become something that upsets people. And I use the word upset because thousands of years ago, in the Middle Ages in fact, people would say when someone was sick that they had a dis-ease of the mind. And then over time, we came up with potions and chemicals and drugs and pharmaceuticals and other things that helped us get better from ailments and different diseases that we got. And that dis-ease of the mind became a disease, and mind was forgotten about. And we're just beginning to realise how spending too much time in that parasympathetic nervous system, firing off adrenaline and all those other chemicals, can cause us different kinds of physical illnesses. So we don't have our predator with teeth and claws chasing us down anymore, but we have other predators that we've created in our mind. And now is the time to learn techniques and ways to release your stress, to deal with it, so that you can be mentally and physically more healthy. Now, looking at recent facts and figures, millions of working days are lost each year because of work related stress, anxiety, and depression. Now, these are the ones we know about. These are the ones that have been to see their doctor, received medication, possibly been given a sick note to explain why they can't come back to work. I'm sure there are many, many, many more people who suffer this way, but we don't know because they try and hide it. Now, HR professionals, they say that they're seeing about 80% of the people that are going sick because of stress. Now, I know people I've coached and mentored who are suffering with stress and they daren't go sick because they're scared that they'll lose their job, or it'll be a sign of weakness because everybody else can cope. So there are many more that we don't know about at all. Now, stress is also thought to contribute to 90% of illnesses. So we're definitely going back to the dis-ease of the mind, having a physical manifestation. So here we're going to be looking at what are classified as the main reasons for stress. 44% is said to be due to workload. Now, this could be having too much to do, not being able to cope, and it can also be not having enough to do. People also feel very stressed when there's not enough going on. 14% lack of support. Now, this could be lack of support at work. It could also be lack of support at home. People with young children feel stressed and they feel that they're not being helped. Nowadays, culturally, the things that we're doing, we're having our children when we're older. So consequently, our parents are older and may not be able to help out with childcare as much as parents used to. And then there's the whole distance thing. Nowadays, we move away from our parents and the families are split. They're not nuclear anymore. So people can feel very isolated with children. And then sometimes you could have people looking after ailing parents or sick family members, and they too get stressed because of the lack of support, being on call 24/7. I don't really need to say very much about the bullying and violence. I think that's quite self-explanatory as to how stressful that can be for anybody. 8% of causes of stress is down to changes at work. People like things to remain the same most of the time. And when there are changes at work, especially in this day and age, businesses are evolving. People are becoming more technical, more programs are being brought in, which free up jobs. People are made redundant because they're not needed anymore, because now we have technology. Whereas the technology may be saving the corporation money, I think a lot of the customers will be querying the service they're receiving nowadays. So a lot of people, they don't like the changes at work. One of the big corporations that I'm aware of, I mentor people within that corporation. They've recently, over the past 18 months, downsized by 20% because of a new online system. That caused a huge amount of stress amongst the workforce. And then we have everything else that people feel stressed about. People feel stressed about their future, about the unknown, about things they're imagining that may or may not happen. There are so many different ways human beings can create stress in their lives. Now, certain industries are said to be very stressful. Medical and social work is said to be the most stressful industry to work in. Following from that, we have the public administration and defence. So this will be armed forces, police, fire, and ambulance. It never ceases to amaze me how humans can react to certain situations. I've worked with a lot of people, paramedics, and people who work for the ambulance service, who are very stressed at the bullying they receive and the aggression they get from the people they are sent out to help. Education teachers, they receive, yes, they receive a lot of negative feedback from parents who believe that the teachers should be bringing up their children and teaching them things that historically used to be taught at home. And of course, teachers have very difficult jobs to do nowadays with the behaviour of the children and the students within their class. And here we have that other 10%. Everything else gets put into that 10%. So think about stress. Stress is thought of being a negative experience. It isn't necessarily a negative experience. Stress is a matter of perception. It depends on the person and how they feel they can cope with what's been expected of them. Stress is instinctive. It's a response to unexpected events or perceived threats. There's something inside your unconscious mind that instinctively responds when something happens. And nowadays, the fight or flight response is kicking in without the predator. So, what I want you to do now is to just think about this information. Read the PDF. Read, download, digest the PDF that's attached to this module. Think about the last 2 years. Look back. And what experiences have you had over the past couple of years that you would now label, consider to have been stressful? Take a moment, write them down, and then think about each one and mark them out of 10. For example, 1 means you dealt with it brilliantly. 10 means not so much. You had a huge amount of stress at that time. So write them down and keep them to one side, because we're going to be looking at these a little bit later on. And when you've done that, you can move on to module 2.